Hello, everyone. Well, it is going to be a white Christmas in Nebraska, but we're talking about more than just that. We're actually talking about a rare Christmas blizzard. So, needless to say, lots to talk about. Let's get to all the details. Starting 9 o'clock this evening, and we're looking at temperatures, we're looking at precipitation, and we got to talk about the wind as well. So, a breezy evening in eastern Nebraska, but God call it a windy night across central Nebraska with average gusts around 35 miles per hour. Just a light breeze, though, over in the panhandle. As far as the precipitation situation, notice that we're still talking about rain in eastern Nebraska with those temperatures mid to upper 30s, but really just isolated rain showers for the rest of the evening. It looks like isolated snow showers in the central part of the state where you can see those colder temperatures already in the 20s. Now jump ahead to midnight. It's still gaps showing up, a little bit more than at 9 o'clock, but still scattered rain showers in the east and scattered snow, light to moderate snow, no heavy snow coming down just yet. By the way, the shade of purple indicating freezing rain and sleet. Yes, we do expect a little bit of that in eastern Nebraska as well. But now let's jump ahead to tomorrow morning, Christmas morning. We're looking at 8 a.m. and now look at the dark shades of blue showing up. So this is indicating where heavy snow is possible. And I tell you what, I do think it's actually for Christmas Day during the morning hours, it's going to be the peak in eastern Nebraska. Now, I do have to mention right along the Iowa-Nebraska border, look at the little bit of purple still trying to show on. So very early morning hours may still be that freezing rain and sleet, possibly around the Omaha area, but for the vast majority, we are talking about snow, and I do think that transition to snow, even in far eastern Nebraska, will occur as we get into the late morning hours. Also notice, though the wind situation is nothing to talk about in the panhandle, where it's also going to be dry, winds increasing through the overnight hours as well. And by tomorrow morning, gusts around 30 miles per hour in eastern Nebraska, but in the central part of the state, we got to call it very windy. And it looks like it's going to stay very windy throughout the day with gusts 40, maybe even up to 45 miles per hour. So we're walking through Christmas Day. Here's lunchtime. And notice, even along the Iowa-Nebraska border now, temperatures have come down enough where it is all snow coming down. And notice that there's still the peak, though we're going to see. What's going to be interesting tomorrow is usually we talk about systems moving from west to east. Well, tomorrow this is going to be an east-west situation because there's an area of low pressure over us that's actually getting pushed back to the west by a strong area of high pressure. And that's what's made this forecast so difficult, kind of an unusual situation where this system is actually going to be going back a little bit. Here's what I mean. So look at noon. Look what happens as we go to 4 o'clock. Look how it's drying out in the eastern part of the state, but really filling in the central part of the state. And we'll even see some snow push back into the panhandle before it's all said and done. And also we'll see those winds start to increase in the panhandle as well. By the afternoon, it'll be breezy, but it's still just going to be windy in eastern and central Nebraska. But I do have to mention, by the time we get to the late afternoon on Christmas Day, drying out for places like Lincoln and Omaha. But that is certainly not going to be the case in the central part of the state. And I do have to mention the snow starting to push back as we get into Christmas evening. And by the way, still cold temperatures everywhere. So Christmas Day, maybe with the exception of the Pando, looking like a day absolutely just to stay inside and enjoy the Christmas festivities, but don't try and travel anywhere, central and eastern part of the state in particular. Now we're looking at very late Christmas night, and finally the wind's backing down some, especially in the eastern part of the state, where again, maybe a few flurries around, but the light to moderate snow, I don't think we'll be dealing with heavy snow anymore, but still a lot of light to moderate snow coming down in central and western Nebraska. It'll still be windy, but we're not talking about those very windy conditions of gusts 40, 45 miles per hour. Now that's Christmas Day, but we've got to keep talking about what's to come because, again, this is a system that does not want to clear the state. And though we expect the worst conditions to be Christmas Day, look at Tuesday morning. Look how there is still a lot of light to moderate snow, maybe even a few pockets of heavy snow around for the central and western part of the state. But look at far eastern Nebraska, still staying dry. But eventually this system is going to start moving east again, from moving west to finally moving east again. So look how we get into the afternoon on Tuesday, and then the possibility of some snow does come back for eastern Nebraska, but the focus definitely is the central part of the state. And though on Tuesday we're going to be catching a break in central and eastern Nebraska from the wind, just kind of a breezy day, gusts in that 15 to 25 mile per range. Got to mention the panhandle, though it's just going to be isolated snow showers, it will get very windy in the panhandle, gusts 40, 45 miles per hour. So that's the big wind day for western Nebraska. Here we are Tuesday evening, and again, though I think it's going to stay isolated in the eastern part of the state, talking about scattered light to moderate snow central and western Nebraska. And guess what? We're still talking about a snow chance on Wednesday. Now, Wednesday, definitely another step down. So we do expect the worst conditions on Monday. Some improvement on Tuesday, though. Still a lot of places seeing light to moderate snow. And then by the time we get to Wednesday, for many, I think it's just going to be isolated snow showers, maybe a little bit of sleet mixing in as well. There's some indications of that in the eastern part of the state. But this is Wednesday morning, maybe some going back to work, though. A lot of folks just taking off the whole week. But look how the chance continues, especially in central Nebraska. Notice how I keep saying central Nebraska. In the afternoon, looks like a breezy day for central and eastern Nebraska. Not as windy in the panhandle on Wednesday as Tuesday, but gusts still reaching around 30 miles per hour. And look at a little bit of a warming trend, too, especially with the snow chance coming to an end now for the western part of the state. Again, this system now finally moving from west to east again. So probably one of the last places where we'll see the chance of flurries come to an end will be in the eastern part of the state. We've got to keep that chance in for some flurries through early Wednesday evening, but finally it looks like by the time we get to late evening hours, around 10 o'clock or so Wednesday evening, finally we are completely dry in the state. So that's the big overview. Now let's talk about amounts, and we're going to talk about freezing rain first. Now, if you live west of Lincoln, don't think you're going to see any freezing rain. This is going to be an all-snow event, but we are talking about that possibility for Lincoln on over into western Iowa. Possibility of some freezing rain and sleet, primarily tonight into tomorrow morning, far from a crippling ice storm. There will be much more issues farther to the north and east. But as far as what we're going to see along the Iowa-Nebraska border, it's looking like it's going to be less than 1/10 of an inch of freezing rain, so kind of nuisance stuff. But this could be a situation where, after the snow falls, there might be a layer of ice on your car or on your windshield. There might be a thin layer of ice on plants, on sidewalks, outdoor patio furniture. Again, could there be some icy spots of roads? Most likely bridges and overpasses, but we're not talking about widespread icy roads with these kind of freezing rain amounts. And again, it kind of looks like it's tonight through the morning hours tomorrow, and then we're just mainly talking about all snow. But also got to mention, besides the freezing rain, a little bit of sleet mixing in as well. What's going to be much more noticeable is the snow, but boy, is there going to be variation across the state. And the big takeaway is look at the center. That's going to be the sweet spot. You go west and east, and those snow totals going down. So we'll just kind of start low and work our way high. It looks like the lowest totals probably in the panhandle. For places like Scottsbluff, maybe as little as a dusting, possibly as high as 2 inches. And more like, the most likely amount. We're showing you the range of possibilities. Most likely amount is going to be somewhere in between, but we got to mention the extremes because there's still some models on the high end, some on the low end. Omaha looking like 1 to possibly as much as 3 inches. And notice as you go to the west a little bit, it starts to pick up. Sioux City, 2 to 4 inches. Lincoln, 2 to 4 inches. Get to Columbus, now we're talking about 4 to 6 inches. And notice how it increases as you're going the opposite direction too, with a focus in the center. So Grand Island, North Platte, looking at 5 to 7 inches. But then Kearney, 6 to 8. Broken Bow, 6 to 8. And also notice a little bit more to the north versus the south as well as far as snow totals. So by the time you get to O'Neill, 9 to 11 inches by the time it's all said and done Wednesday evening. And Valentine, how about 11 to 13 inches? Yes, I do think there could be a couple of spots in the north central part of the state that see up to 13 inches of snow.